Hey again, everybody. Hope you guys are enjoying the holidays. I know I have been. I'm in between classes right now, so it's a little interesting. I have a winter class. For those, I don't think I've actually said this, but I adjunct. So I adjunct literature courses at Queens College for one. Um, and I've also been at other colleges before, and I'm in between semesters right now. So I've I have been finishing up my previous course, my fall course, and just preparing my winter course. So I'm in this kind of weird um, holiday kind of holiday hangover kind of thing, where like the holidays have happened. We worked really hard, cooking a lot of things, and getting really excited about a lot of things. And I've also been working really hard on my grading and all of that. And now I just feel like I'm breathing for the first time in a couple weeks. But also like gearing up to do this winter course, which starts January 4th. So that's a little crazy. But yeah, tarot and having this channel being kind of like my side enterprise that I just do for fun is it makes it like a nice kind of thing to get back into now. And yeah, so I'm really excited to be filming another video. I know it's been a couple weeks, and I hope to be a bit more regular in the future. I really hope to get a video out maybe every week or every other week or something like that. So yeah, stick around for that. And thanks. I want to say thanks to Kelly and Maddox for shouting me out on that video, her latest treasure hunt video. And thanks so much to all the new subscribers who are here. It's like a complete thrill to have a little bit bigger following than I did, and to see those numbers kind of go drastically up. Because I really am like a sort of baby YouTuber. Like I am very, very new at this. And I'm really humbled and also really excited to continue having a few more people watching, hopefully. So yeah, this is going to be really cool. And so with the fact that, I'm pretty new at this in mind, and that this is a pretty new channel for me, I thought that one of the first things that I might want to do is talk a little bit about how I got into tarot, and just kind of go through, and also let me apologize for the light that keeps, I really hope I'm able to edit this out. My husband bought me a light, for Christmas, which actually makes my recording, sort of light atmosphere a whole lot better. So I'm really excited about it, but it also occasionally gets a little glare on my glasses when I look up at the wrong angle. So it will happen. I hope I can edit it out. But if not, apologize for that weird little glare. But anyway, yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I would just like to make a video about how I got into tarot, because tarot is one of the main reasons I wanted to make this channel, and I really haven't talked about tarot yet. And tarot was my sort of gateway drug into paganism. Tarot is the reason I got into paganism and witchcraft at all. And yeah, I really did so first because I found this book called How to Deal Tarot for Everyday Life, and it's really made for young people. I found it in a bookstore on, I believe it was on 34th Street. Yeah, it was on 34th Street. I live in New York, and at the time I was commuting into Manhattan all the time. And so I would sometimes just go to this bookstore, and I went and I found this book. I happened to stumble across this book in the bestseller area. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't in a pagan or occult area. It was just in the I think it may have been in the teen or YA area, because YA Lit is one of my things that I teach. And it's something that it's one of my other intense passions. And so I think I must have found it in the YA section. And, yeah, it just looked interesting. I'd always been sort of vaguely interested, like I said in my witchy kid stuff video, vaguely interested in things that were kind of mysterious, or maybe, thought of as a little bit taboo, or, maybe like, I don't know, not witchy exactly, but a little bit sort of off the beaten path, or like indie somehow. So yeah, I was just kind of attracted to it, and I bought it kind of on a whim, and I started reading it, and it didn't come with a deck. But the art is, and I'll show this in another video. I should have had this here too, because it's not the deck that I'm going to show most in this video. In fact, I'm not going to show it all because I don't have it right here. But yeah, it's called, the deck that goes with it is called a Circo. And the book was illustrated by Marisa de la Peña, who doesn't do tarot, or I'm not sure she does tarot, but she doesn't do deck illustration anymore as of right now. But her decks are so beautiful, and the Circo was not my first deck, so I'm not going to talk about it that much. But the illustrations that are on the Circo deck were also the illustrations of the cards in this book. So they were some of the first illustrations that I kind of fell in love with of tarot cards. And maybe toward the end of this video, I'll go and get it and show you, because now I kind of want to show you. But yeah, it was really cool stumbling upon that book, and it just drew me in from the beginning. I think it was something also about the simplicity of the book. The book was marketed toward teens and young adults, so they had exercises like, think about who the Page of Swords would be in your life. Think about think about the qualities of the Queen of Wands that you might want to manifest. And so it was like this very relatable, very, very, very simple approach. And I don't know, it just really pulled me in. And I think I said this in the other video, I've always liked anything that's like a personality test, or anything that can tell you something about yourself. I guess self-development sort of things. So it spoke to that. The way that it was pitched really spoke to that in me, that urge. And not too long after that, this is the next step in the story, I went to England for research. So I was lucky to have gotten a small grant to do research related to my academic writing. And this is a side thing, but what I work on is children's writing, writing that was actually done by children. And so I had always wanted to go to the Museum of Childhood in London, where they have a lot of like little newspapers, handmade newspapers that have been made by children. I had also always wanted to, less for my research and more just because I've always wanted to see them. I always wanted to go to the Bronte Parsonage Museum in Yorkshire. So that had been a lifelong dream, and I tacked that onto the London bit. The London bit was actually for research. And then the Yorkshire bit of the trip was just because I freaking love the Brontes. And they are so witchy. If anybody's not super familiar with them, I would recommend becoming so, because they're super witchy. And they made these little books when they were kids, tiny, tiny books. You've probably heard of them before. A lot of people probably have. And again, I wanted to see these more because I had always wanted to see them, and I thought potentially I could write about them in the future. But lots of people have written about them, so it was less that I thought I was going to make a big intervention in this, and more that I just wanted to see them. So the first leg of the trip, I was in London, and I was in the library it was a couple weeks I was there. I was in the library or the archives or like at a museum. I went to the V&A Museum, so for a bit of that, Victoria and Albert, for a bit of that I was there. But I was in a place like this, a library, an archive, a museum, a place like that for most of the trip during like business hours. So like 9 to 5, I would just be like hanging out in the library, like getting really busy with research. But on nights and weekends, I could basically do whatever I wanted. So it was this, the whole period was like 6 weeks. So the whole trip lasted for 6 weeks, but I think maybe 2 of them I was in London. And I really just couldn't think of that many things to do. So I looked up, I thought like, okay, I've been a little interested in tarot. Maybe there are stores that sell these decks that I could go to, and I could like maybe try to get one and try it out. And so I started looking up occult stores. I don't even think I knew the word occult. I think that's how much of a baby I was at this. Like, I don't even think I knew the word. And so I'm not even sure what I Googled to get this, but at some point I came up with, I may have also Googled bookstores, because I'm big into, because I'm a bookish type, I'm big into looking at bookstores when I'm in a new city or a city I don't know very well. or when I'm in an old city, or when I do know very well, for that matter. But yeah, so I think one way or the other, I came up with this walking tour list of occult bookstores. And I can't remember all of them, and I can't even remember the one I actually got this book in. But one of them I know was Treadwell's. I can't remember the others. But at any rate, I went to some great bookstores. I think there were maybe 5 on the list, and I really kind of traveled around to make sure I hit all of them. I got really dorky about it. And at one of them, I found a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves. And it was what changed everything. I didn't know that it would. I just picked it up because my friend Becky had recommended it. So these things all sort of came together, like all these like synchronicities. It was nothing that like I sort of set out to get into this. It just all sort of came together. So my friend Becky had recommended this book, and I picked it up. And I still couldn't find a tarot deck that I really liked, because I think I knew I was after something really, really special, and that I would know it when I saw it. For some reason, I just really didn't want to get like a basic Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Maybe it's because the first imagery that I saw was not the Rider-Waite-Smith because of the book that I read. But yeah, I just never really wanted that in the beginning. I did end up getting into Rider-Waite-Smith later on. But that was only after I started really consciously learning about tarot and trying to like, really study it as a subject and try to become a pro tarot reader. But there in the beginning, I wasn't looking for that. At any rate, I did not find a tarot deck at that moment in the London bookstore hunt. What I did find was Women Who Run with the Wolves. And that book, it really did change everything. If you haven't read it, I would say definitely read it. What I liked about it was that it took fairy tales that were, some of them quite misogynistic originally, and sort of tried to imagine how, and Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote this book, I believe her background is in anthropology and folk and fairy tales, and I forget what else, but she's very learned and has like multiple academic backgrounds, and it's such an amazing book. And she takes these fairy tales and tries to imagine, not just imagine, but also sort of through research, sort of make educated guesses about like how they could have been women's stories passed down through generations. So like how they could relate to experiences that might be common among most women. So like the one that I found really, really, really evocative was a couple of them. The Bluebeard one, which she saw as like a warning against getting into sort of bad relationships. And let's see, what was the other one? I believe it's either the Red Shoes or the Handless Maiden. I get these confused, but it's one where the girl has to, I think it is the Red Shoes, but I think in my mind I'm mixing it up with the Handless Maiden. But the Red Shoes is one where I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. There's a girl and she has some handmade red shoes that for some reason she gives up. And then she acquires some like store-bought red shoes, and they become somehow bewitched, and she has to dance endlessly in them. And this was seen originally as kind of a and I always saw it as a really misogynistic fairy tale. It's like, why does a girl have to keep dancing, and why why can't she just stop? Like it's sort of playing on like women being more sexual and like dancing leading to sex and all of these kind of like misogynistic things. But yeah, Clarissa Pinkola Estes reads that as more of like, she gave up her handmade shoes. She gave up the shoes that she made by hand for something that was store-bought and something that was like less than. So rather than, because it wasn't hers, because she didn't actually make it. So rather than interpreting it as just a misogynistic tale, she interprets it as a tale about like how to maintain your authenticity and your integrity. And I thought that was like so powerful. Like, oh, I might even cry because it's like, it was just so powerful for me. And this is a random note, but I was just saying I like YA, and if anybody else likes YA books, I recently read an adaptation of The Red Shoes by Anna Marie McLemore. It's called Dark and Deepest Red, I believe. That's amazing. So if you are a fairy tale person and a person who likes YA fairy tale adaptations, you might really like that. But anyway, yeah, like it really hit me, and I think it was a time in my life in which like I really needed this. I hadn't done any travel by myself, and certainly not any extended travel like that in a very long time at that point. And thinking back on it now, of course, in pandemic times, it's like, oh God, I wish I could do something like that again. And, knowing that it's probably going to be at least a year, who knows, before anybody could do anything like that again. And also, of course, I was incredibly privileged to get to do it at all, so I want to add that. But yeah, it was something I really, really needed. And I think it just hit me at the right point in my life. But at any rate, so that was part of it. That was, I would say, the first sort of key in this sort of multi-doored, I guess, initiation kind of process that I went through. The first key to the first door. And the next key for me, I think, was going to Yorkshire. I have never experienced anything like that. It hit me at such a deep level. I went in the summer, so there wasn't a lot of, I believe it was the heather that was not in bloom at the time. So it wasn't at that particular time of year when I was told it would have been like even more fabulous looking. But it was still amazing. I did a lot of walking, and this was also part of trying to sort of get in touch with my literary and sort of emotional, I think even, I don't know if you want to call them role models. They're almost like saints to me. The Brontes are almost like to the level of saints. And of course I didn't really think about it in that language because I wasn't witchy yet. I was becoming witchy. But yeah, like, just getting in touch with the way that they experience this landscape, because they were big walkers. They would walk all the time with either their dogs, or just each other alone. And, it was a big part of how they came up with ideas, and, also just, I think, a big part of their kind of spiritual, emotional life. And so I wanted to do that, to understand more about them and to understand, just to get closer to them. And when I tried it for myself, it was just hard to describe. I feel like I just keep coming up with words that don't really do it justice. But again, I hadn't gotten a lot of time to be by myself. And when I was out there, one thing I did was make a lot more friends. I made friends at the B&B that I was staying at, and walked around with them. So that was cool to make friends on my own. Also, what's the other thing? What else was I going to say about that? Oh, yes. I also got, and I know this is a whole other area really of London. Beatrix Potter was more like not London, of England. Beatrix Potter was more of a Lake District kind of girl. But yeah, I got the Beatrix Potter, tales on, it was some app. It was a BBC radio app that my landlady told me that would be good. And so I tried it out. I got the tales, and I was just like roaming around the moors, like listening to these tales. So that was pretty awesome. And often I would take a book with me, too. If I wasn't listening to the tales while I was walking, I would take a book with me and then sit down, read the book, and enjoy that. And then the next step was that I did finally find a tarot deck that was right for me. So there was a little local witchy shop in Haworth, which is where the Brontes live. I hope I'm saying that right. I feel like I always flirt with like slightly different pronunciations, and one of them is probably more right than another. But yeah, there was a cute little occult store, and I bought a deck called the Ostara. So let me. I think this is coming to the part where I want to show the deck. But before I do show the deck, I want to say, when I saw it, I just knew it was right. And they had the ability to like flip through, and you could see a couple different cards. So that was nice. That helped me choose. But also something about the imagery, and something about the way that the deck described itself just sounded right. And I took it up on a walk that I had been really excited to go on, which was, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking out on what place this walk was to now, or what it was called. But I think it's called, I don't think this is the technical name for it or anything, but I think some people call it the Fairy Cave, which is featured in Wuthering Heights, apparently. It's actually been a while since I've read Wuthering Heights, but apparently I think it's where maybe Kathy and Heathcliff are playing at one point. And of course, like, we don't know if that's actually the place that Emily Bronte was thinking of when she wrote this, but a lot of people think that it could be the place that she was speaking of. And so I was really excited to check it out. And it was quite a walk, but not an undoable walk for the evening, because it was summer, so the days were really long. I think it finally got dark at about 9. Went out after I got done with the library, which probably was, library and dinner, which was probably like 6 or something. And I walked, and I walked a long ways. I think it was maybe like 3 miles, which for me is like a lot. And if that's like an undoable distance, I'm not the best person with distances. If you're like, you could never walk 3 miles in that time, then don't, you're probably right. But whatever the distance was, I did get there. And I got to, the place that was called, the Fairy Cave. And, it was like this little inset kind of thing. You actually had to sort of crawl. You couldn't get in it from like, okay, so this is hard to describe. I had gone up sort of up a cliff. So it was at the top of a cliff, but it was like down below the level of the cliff. So you had to sort of crawl down a little bit to get into the entrance to the cave. So it was probably a little dangerous for me to be doing like at night. At night, like in a place I really didn't know very well. But whatever. I did it. And I think this kind of feeling of just freedom and just complete like abandon, even to the point of maybe being a little bit dangerous, was part of what I got out of that experience. Like, I really needed to do things that were pretty daring and maybe a little extreme. Probably not for some people. Probably some people have done much more, surfing or something. Seems very intense to me, but I've never really been like, an extreme sports kind of gal. So like for me, this was quite intense and quite a big deal for me to be doing all these things on my own. And yeah, again, I think that's just part of what I was getting out of it. But that night I had my new deck, and I did a reading. I did my first tarot reading, and up on the top of this cliff. And the next day I actually went there and I took like a ton of pictures. So I will show like a couple. I'll try to see if I can put some of the pictures like in the video somehow. I took a ton of pictures, and you can tell in the pictures. I met someone in London after that, just a person that I met, and we started having a conversation, and I showed them one of these pictures after telling them I had been to Yorkshire, and they were like, "Wow, you're just high on life there, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I was." I was like, "That's spot on." I was just completely high on life at that point. But anyway, so yeah. I did my first reading, and the rest is history. I've been into tarot ever since. And I just wanted to show a little bit of the imagery of this deck, because I feel like this deck isn't actually that common. I think it was maybe made in 2018, but I haven't seen a lot of people And again, I'm new to this community, so if I'm wrong, if this is like everybody knows about this, sorry about that. But I just anecdotally, I don't think I've seen that many people working with it, or really talking about it. So I wanted to show it a little bit and show the sort of deck that I first fell in love with. So yeah, so it's a bit idiosyncratic. It is sort of based, parts of it feel based on the RWS system and parts don't. And this is the back. You can see it's pretty glossy. This is the backs, and I just love them. You've got the skulls and the little moons, and the flowers. And the description of the deck said, the city comes awake after the winter, or something to that effect, that it was about the city coming awake after the winter. And I found that like really, really evocative, the idea that not only is this a time of life when the spring is happening and the sun is coming back, and like the individual is awakening, but the city is awakening. I think I liked that because it merged the idea of the city and the rural atmosphere for me. And it's like, as much as I was enjoying this rural atmosphere, and as much as I love the imagery of nature on these cards, I also needed a way to put that back together with like how humans experience nature, which is often more in cities. And for me, certainly has been more in cities. I needed to sort of a bridge between this like amazing experience that I was having and real life. And I think the Ostara was kind of able to give me that. So yeah, I just showing the backs. And then just a few facts about the deck. One is it was made by 4 different artists. So a lot of the art is, they have 4 distinct styles. They don't try to like merge their styles or make their styles look the same. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about it, because they each did a different suit and then they split up the major arcana. And the suits are the usual suits. I believe they have swords, swords, coins. They call them coins here instead of pentacles, so I guess that's slightly different. Swords, coins, wands, and cups. And each artist took one of the suits and they split up the major arcana. I also love the story of the deck, which is that they all met at university, I believe, and decided to make a deck together. So that I thought was really cool. And I believe they were art students, so their background is art, and you can tell that they have a lot of knowledge of art, though their styles are all very different again. But yeah, just I'm not going to do like a complete walkthrough or anything, though I might do that later if people are interested. But I mostly just wanted to show some of my favorite cards, talk about why I like them, and that sort of thing. So let's see. So the Emperor here. I just really like the Emperor because he looks like such a positive example of masculinity. He looks, he's looking up. He looks very hopeful and very just positive. I also like all of the occult symbols that are on his chest and his like giant horns. This is the Seven of Cups. I just really think this one is very fun. And I like that she has a little raccoon mask. This brings up another really important point about this deck that I really like, which is that I think this is like such a brilliant way to tie it all together. Though the suits are done by each suit is done by one of the different artists. One way that they kind of made it all come together was by having an animal, a single animal, be in each number. So across all the sevens, for instance, the animal is the raccoon, and for each number there's a different animal that's representative of that number, and that's on in one way or another on that card. Sometimes it's the animal itself. Sometimes it's like a mat. Like in this one you get the raccoon mask. I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, sometimes it's like, it's this cute little Easter egg thing. For one, you're trying to figure out, where is it in this one? Once you feel like you kind of have a secret. And I think that's a really fun vibe for art, to feel like you want to find the things that they put there for you. But also I just like it because it really does tie the art together on the different cards, because you're always looking for this for this animal. And I think for me, it helped me read more. I don't know if you want to say more numerologically, because I don't know numerology as a system really. But it helped me to look at numbers and be like, oh yes, the 4s always kind of do this, or the 5s always kind of do that. To be able to look at them and think of the numbers as points on a scale, or points on a line, or points in a journey of some sort. To be able to have this sort of reference point that you can refer back to over and over. So yeah, this one is the 2 of Wands, and I like this because it really captures how, sorry, there's a little glare there. I think it really taught me something about the 2 that I wouldn't have known otherwise, which is this aspect of feeling like you're still not quite off the ground, like you're trying to get off the ground, but you're still not quite. And the bird makes it really literal here. The bird is not flying, and the girl is in the cage looking at the bird, which I also feel like is really interesting. And yeah, you can see that some of the art is really surreal. This particular artist who does the wands, some of them are really surreal, very weird. You know, the girl being in the cage here, perfect example of that. And the cage is all in the background. You don't get a sense that this is like, you know, some literal thing. We don't know what she's planning exactly. I don't even really get the sense of planning from this card, even though I know that is a part of the 2 of Wands energy. I more get a sense of stasis, that is ready for liftoff, but doesn't yet know that it's capable of that. You can also see at this point that like the cards are not like sticking that much with the RWS. You have this here. 9 of Swords, I love. So 9 of Swords is a card I have like a very strong relationship with. I see it as being pretty much about anxiety for me, and about you know, being aware of your anxiety and knowing when it comes up how to take care of yourself. And yeah, I just think the image of the panther being cornered by 9 knives, or 9 swords. This one's, I guess, a little bit more drawing on the Rider-Waite, but it's still, yeah, still not quite it. I love the devil. So yeah, I just love, again, the cages. The cages I think is a motif that they deal with a couple times in a couple different ways. I like the idea that these people are being caged, and that's part of what the devil is about being sort of, again, caged, maybe though you don't technically have to be, but you are sort of collaborating in your own unfreedom at that point. That's kind of what I got out of this card. And I also think it's just really a really interesting image. Just, it's such a spooky image, with the wings and the skull. He's not like an animal we can really figure out. And I like that. There's some magic and some mystery about this deck. So I want to show the Knight of... Is this the Knight of Wands? No, this is the Knight of Cups. And you can also see that they get pretty abstract about what qualifies as like showing a cup, you know? Sorry about that glare again. But you know, there's really not a cup here. Oh, there is a cup on the flag here, or on the sail. But the most of what you get the cup energy from is the water, I would say. I love this one because I just love the fact that this person is a sailor. I love the idea of the Knight of Cups being a sailor. And I also love that there's some androgyny to how they depict people on these cards. And I think the Knight of Cups is a really good example of that. I like that they don't stick to the gender binary for one of like, oh, knights have to be like male presenting people, and like, you know, let's see, I guess pages would technically be female, but like queens having to be female. I like that they don't stick to that. And again, that there's just androgyny in how they're presenting figures. So the Eight of Wands, I just love. Again, the wands are often pretty surreal in this deck, and I like how, I also like how she's incorporated an animal, you know, just like the wands are coming out of the eagle. And even though this really doesn't match the RWS that much, you still get that feeling of haste that you get with the RWS and that you're supposed to get with that card. Three of Wands. Again, a lot of the ones I'm showing are, as my favorites, are the wands, which I think that's probably not an accident. I think I just really like the wand creator probably the best. But all of them are beautiful. Again, I just like how surreal and abstract this is. The frog, like, fishing for boats, I think is what's going on. So again, you get this feeling of like planning, but that the planning isn't actually done or isn't actually coming to fruition yet. The image of fishing for boats, that's just really evocative. It's like he's trying to bring something forward. These boats could represent, you know, his ship coming in. And he's fishing for them, you know, he's like trying to bring them in. And the threes are all frogs, I should also say. Just some that I really like. The King of Pentacles or Coins. I love it. I love this guy. He's so kind of intense, kind of this intense, like dark energy about this card. I mean, the actual like environment is dark for one. And that's something to bring in about, that's something I haven't really talked about yet with this deck, but the idea of the light coming back to the world, is mixed a little bit with also the fact that like darkness still exists. And, I feel like the creators are trying to like destabilize the idea of, you know, as we all are at this point, of like light equals good and dark equals bad, and anything simplistic like that. And I think the King of Pentacles is probably a good example of this because he seems very powerful. He's acquired a lot of cool stuff, all these coins and stuff hanging from his antlers. But I don't get a feeling that we're supposed to regard this character as somehow negative. I get the feeling that we're supposed to regard this character as powerful, just powerful, and that there's good and bad that can come with that. Knight of Wands, so beautiful. I don't even know what to say about that one other than she's beautiful. Page of Wands. This card is like my best friend. It just keeps coming up over and over again for me. And yeah, I don't necessarily know what to make of that in my life, but I can't see it without having that feeling of affection for a friend that keeps coming back up. Ace of Coins. I adore this little mouse with her coin. Just love it. I get the real feeling of a beginning from that card. Like the Ace of Pentacles, I always feel like it's kind of like making something where there wasn't anything. Not necessarily in the creative sense, with like wands, but to me those like overlap, and the energy is similar in a way, because I mean I think the energy of the aces is always, it's a beginning, but with the Ace of Coins, I always just feel as though there's a bodily, physical element. You're bringing something into the world that that has never been there before, and I really feel that with this little mouse. The thing she has is so tangible and so big compared to her, and also I just love the art style. I also really like the art style of the person who made the coins. I love the sort of like, I don't know, it's like sort of finer lines and more detailed drawing. Just think that's really beautiful. The Six of Cups is one of my favorite in this deck, because I should have said this also. One thing I really love about this deck is that it comes with a very detailed booklet, and the booklet will tell you what's supposed to be happening in the scenario in this, not just necessarily like how it corresponds to the RWS or what it sort of means. There's like a little story that goes along with some of them, And with this one, the children are making an offering to a whale god, which, like, how cool is that? Like, who came up with that? It's so interesting. And I just love the idea that the children are so close to this whale because of, their innocence, or they're just beginning life. And I think it really speaks to the Six of Cups energy, that, like, there's something interesting about childhood, something that adults are often nostalgic for, but that, through your inner child, you can kind of access that closeness to nature, the closeness to something as magical as the whale god. The Fool, I just love this. I've thought seriously about getting this tattooed on me because I love it so much. I love that she, for one thing, I love the broom. I love that she's a witch. I mean, she's a witch, basically. Also, her skinned knees, I like, and her, like, barely tied shoes, and how she's like Icarus. She's flying too close to the sun here. There's just, like, that, like, vulnerability of the Fool. Like, she is about to go on a journey, and maybe step off a cliff, or fly too close to the sun. So I like that parallel. And I like how, like, the skinned knees and the like, sort of barely tied shoes also kind of communicate that vulnerability there. The Magician is super weird, and I like her so much. I think that what's going on here, I'm going to hold this one really close because this one's really weird and abstract, and I want to make sure you see it. There's, like, a boat right in the middle there and some lily pads, and the boat is sailing through this sort of little ocean that is on a person, and it's like a labyrinth. So there's this labyrinth, like, layered on top of this person, and there are eyes everywhere. I just, honestly, I still struggle to understand this card because it's so esoteric in the way it's presented. But I would think that going along with the RWS Magician, which is like, the idea of having all the tools you need to manifest change, and to bring something into the world. I think this person with the labyrinth on her could definitely symbolize that kind of ability to manifest something. And I think the person going through the labyrinth, maybe that's more like the individual, the individual having to navigate the labyrinth, and the giant labyrinth being sort of the magic itself, or herself, as the case may be. So yeah, the idea that as the magician, you navigate the labyrinth of magic, you sort of wind your way through it. And that's, to me, it's a bit more of an intimidating idea of the magician, of what it takes to create, just full stop. But I find it very interesting, and even though I do think it's very different, I think it really is very different from how the RWS magician is, and the meaning even behind it is very different. I still like it a lot, and it shaped my idea of the magician for sure. I'm just going to show you a couple more really quickly, and I don't have as much to say about these, but the Eight of Swords. Eights are always birds of prey. They're not always hawks, but they are always birds of prey. And I like that idea of the hawk as, because when hawks fly, they always have these little blinders. So it seems more before they fly, if they're trained hawks. Obviously, hawks in the wild don't have that. But the idea that there's something more natural or training oriented about this blinder, and that it will come off, and that's just natural. I kind of like that. The Star, I just love it. I don't have a whole lot to say about that one. Queen of Swords, really like her. King. I really like the court cards in this deck, more than most of the court cards in other decks I have, honestly. King of Cups here. I love him. The idea that he's dipping his fingers into sort of these waters of emotion. And he seems like he has such control. And the giant sort of red orb behind, I'm not totally sure what to make of. But I also really like the candles, which seems to suggest there's some fire energy as well as water energy with the king. And the Hierophant, this is one I have a special relationship to as a teacher, as someone who for a long time has read things and written things for her work, and created things. I would even say making videos is not that different. And yeah, just this card, I'm trying to get a little bit closer. I love how the book is in front of the book is the face basically. And then there's this plant coming out of the guy's head. There's a candle in his hand. And so, yeah, I love the idea that the plant there's something living coming out of this guy's brain, something alive. And then all the pages fluttering everywhere kind of creates this parallel between books and pages and plants. These are all living things that as humans we can like nurture. And the Hierophant, yeah, just the idea that to me it seems like he's channeling all of this. That he's sort of a channel for the life and the creative things that he's going to bring about to come through. The holding the candle and then the hand. Which looks to be a pathway. I love those things about this. The candle, I think, to me, it's like the candle of knowledge and the candle of just holding knowledge and the great responsibility of that. And then at the bottom, the hand, someone walking through it, reminds me again of the magician, how there's an individual who's going through this. So the Hierophant itself seems like this huge energy of magic, and then the individual's the one who has to go through the door. So that it brings it down to the individual level. It's like, yeah, the Hierophant is this huge energy. You're not this huge energy. You're the one sort of going through the door of the Hierophant and like channeling that energy. At least that's what I get out of that. And then just a couple more. This is getting a little long, so sorry about that, but I love this deck. I hope you're enjoying it. 4 of Coins. Oh, this is the deck. This is the card that made me buy this deck. When I saw this card, I was like, I'm in. Pirate Bunny, that's it. That was all it took. Because I love this little dude. I love him with his eye patch and his 4 coins and really, really dramatic ship. And really dramatic, glaring face. So yeah. Kind of makes me think of my cats. My cats have those really dramatic faces. The Wheel of Fortune. I love this one. I love that they're the fates. I think it really brings in this interesting balance between agency and choice and a lack of choice. The fates are cutting this cord. And there's, to some degree, maybe nothing you can really do about that, about how things shake down, how the cookie crumbles, so to speak. But on another level, you have made this what this is, and I think there's agency in that too. And you can even be, you can be you can think of individuals as sort of their own fates, able to cut the cord whenever they want to, or to make choices. The action of cutting the cord can also be the action of a choice, I think. And that's all I wanted to show for now. I'm glad that I was able to do that, and finally, after the whole grading thing, and I'm so glad to have so many people here with me. It's pretty awesome. So yeah. Couple little holiday reflections. I got So I already mentioned the equipment, and I got the shirt and this little earrings for the holidays as well. So yeah, hope everybody also got some cool tarot or non-related tarot or non-tarot related stuff. I have also been told that I have a very very coveted deck in the mail that I have been very excited about for a long time, and it hasn't come. It's the Threadbound Oracle. I want it so much, and I know it's coming to me and it hasn't gotten here. But anyway, yep, holiday reflections. I'd love to hear anything anybody else got that was tarot or not tarot related, and I'd also love to hear about anybody else's stories about how they came to tarot. I think the paths are often so individual, and it can be really interesting to hear how other people got involved in paganism or witchcraft or tarot. So thanks for sitting here with me through this long video, and I'll see you guys soon.